Welcome back to AMN Healthcare International AMN Academy. It's a beautiful Monday night here in the Philippines, but we'd like to greet all our live viewers in other parts of the world. Good afternoon if you are from the Middle East and the Africas. Good morning if you are from the Americas. Welcome to AMN Academy, which happens every Monday at 9 p.m. Where you get to have free lessons for your NCLEX and English examination preparation. For those of you who are joining us just now, AMN offers free lessons every Monday night at 9 p.m. 9.09er English usually teaches every first and third Monday of the month. Typically, I'm with the British Council featuring an IELTS passer in one of the two sessions every month. And sometimes Sir Brian also joins me for free lectures on speaking, writing, reading, and listening. It's just that for tonight, I'm all by myself as Sir Brian is on leave. But hopefully in our next Facebook Live session next month, Sir Brian can join me. Hello to all the nurses worldwide. Will you please use the comment section and let me know your preferred state in the United States of America? Guys, it's important for us to know where you are planning to go to in the United States. That is because only IELTS is accepted by all the states. There are certain states that do not accept other English examinations. That's why we are focusing on IELTS whenever we teach here at AMN Healthcare International. Without further ado, let's talk about the reading subtest. You've noticed perhaps that our lesson for tonight, as the heading or banner tells us, focuses on IELTS reading, in particular, true, false, not given. Before we move on to the next slide, let's take a look at some of the comments of our live viewers. We say hi to the 27 live viewers on Facebook now, and Shano Imperio said, true. Keep those comments coming. So we'd like to hear from the other live viewers. We need to interact with each other in order to make the most out of this Facebook Live session. So let's begin with the reading subtest. FYI, reading is always the second subtest in the written exams. Listening always comes first, followed by reading and then writing. Now, reading is exactly the same for both academic and general training candidates. But if you are a nurse going to the United States of America, it must be the academic module that you are supposed to take. In the actual examination, you are given 3 passages, and for each passage, 13 to 14 questions. When you sum up the 3 of them, the grand total is 40 points in the entire reading subtest. Now, let's ask the nurses who are joining us tonight. Will you please tell me what is the passing score for IELTS reading if you are a nurse who would like to work in the United States of America? I understand that there is a slight delay between StreamYard and Facebook. That's why the others might still be thinking. So I'd like to repeat my question. For the nurses out there planning to work in the United States of America, what score are you supposed to get in IELTS reading? I see that we have 27 live viewers, so let's hear it from our live viewers. Anyone who can tell me what is the required band score for IELTS reading? Now, for speaking, you're supposed to get 7. For the overall band score, that's 6.5. Now, what are you supposed to get in listening, reading, and writing? Well, maybe if they are not responding, that means they do not know the answer. So let me break it down to you. There is no such thing as required band score in IELTS listening, reading, and writing. All that you need to get in the actual examination is a 7 in speaking and 6.5 overall band score. So the question is, what grade is safe in listening, reading, and writing in order to get that 6.5 overall? Well, the answer is a 6 in listening, 6 in reading, 6 in writing, and a 7 in speaking is going to help you earn 6.5 overall band score. But someone asked me before, sir, what if I only got 5.5 in reading? Can I still go to the United States of America? Before I answer that question, let me ask our live viewers. Guys, if you get 5.5 in reading, can you still make it to the United States? States. So far, we have a response here from Jonna Cuenco. So Jonna is correct when she said 7 is required, but that is in IELTS speaking. Okay? Not 7 in IELTS reading, not 7 in IELTS listening, and not 7 in IELTS writing. So let's go back to the question. If you get 5.5 in reading, can you still go to the United States? The answer is yes, as long as your speaking is 7 and your overall band score is 6.5. Now, let's take a look at the next slide as we look at the 3 easy steps to follow in the reading subtest. IELTS lecturers the world over, even the experts from Cambridge, will always tell you to read the questions in advance. Why? Always remember that an academic passage is long, sometimes up to 700 words for one passage. So imagine that you're given 2 pages for one passage. So many words, up to 700, but how many of these words do we really need as answers? In one passage, there are only 13 to 14 answers, which means to say there are more details that you do not need as compared to the details that you need. If you're going to read the questions in advance, it will allow you to determine which information to absorb and which information to disregard or don't pay attention to. Always remember, there are parts in the passage that do not contain answers. So when some people say, "Sir, what if I don't get to understand everything?" Good for you if the portion that you failed to understand does not contain any answers. But for the crucial parts of the passage that contain answers, this must be when your comprehension is on a high level, because that will allow you or help you to identify the correct answer. So after reading all the questions, this is the time that we recommend you to do number 2. And what is number 2? This is when we need you to read the entire passage. Focus on the word entire. I know that some IELTS sources will tell you to just skim and scan. Skim for certain information and scan for specific details. But 9.09er always recommends that you read every single word in the passage, because this is the only way for you to know if something is indeed not given. I mean, how can you confidently say that something is not given when you don't even read everything in the passage? Later, you'll understand what we are talking about, because our focus for tonight is true, false, not given, that mind-boggling question in the reading subtest. But let's go back to number 2. What did I say earlier? Read the entire passage, but actually, you can do number 3 and number 3 hand in hand. You answer the questions while you are reading the passage. And how does this work? Remember that you were able to read the questions beforehand. So when you read the passage, you stop whenever you find an answer. First, you go to the question to answer that before you continue reading. And what is the explanation behind this one? This means that you do not go back to the portions that you've finished reading. And my guarantee, my promise is, if you follow these 3 easy steps in reading, you'll be able to find all of the answers and answer all the questions even before you reach the last sentence in the entire passage. Or sometimes, if you're fortunate or lucky enough, you'll be able to find all of the answers even before you read or reach the last paragraph. So let's have a recap. What are the 3 easy steps to follow in reading? Number 1, read the questions first to have an idea which particular information to find in the passage. Number 2, read the entire passage, because this is the only way for you to know if indeed something is not given. But number 2 and number 3 can be done simultaneously. While you are reading the questions, you may also answer the passage. Guys, let's now move on to the next slide. And this time around, let's focus on true, false, not given as a type of question. Remember that for one passage, you're given 15 minutes to do this. Now, I would rather that the last 15 minutes of the entire reading subtest is time that you can allot to review your answers. And if it's IELTS on paper, this is also the time that you transfer the answers from your test booklet to the answer sheet. However, if you're going to choose IELTS on computer, you can answer immediately using your keyboard. Guys, let's now move on to the next slide. And this time, we are going to focus on true, false, not given as a type of question in IELTS reading. Perhaps when we were in high school, we encountered true or false. The concept is basically the same in IELTS reading. It's just that this time, there is a third option. And what is that third option? It's not given. Guys, sometimes you don't see the exact words true, false, not given in the questionnaire. Sometimes you see yes, no, not given, as you can see here on the first bullet point. Sometimes, look at the second bullet point, the options are accurate, inaccurate, or not given. But whether it's true, false, not given, or yes, no, not given, or accurate, inaccurate, not given, the concept is basically the same. And what is this? You are given a statement, and you decide whether this statement agrees with the passage, or that statement contradicts the information on the passage, or lastly, if this information is something you cannot find in the passage at all. So always remember that you have to follow the format if it's IELTS on paper. If you see it's TFN, write TFN. Do not write true, false, not given. In the case of IELTS on computer, what we recommend is for you to write in all caps. Why? It's easier that way. If you write in all caps for listening, reading, and writing, that's actually accepted. Now, let us move on to the reasons for us to say whether something is true or false or not given. Next slide, please. By the way, if you have questions, don't forget you can interact with me by using the comment section on this Facebook Live session. And if you have joined us just now, this is the Facebook Live session of AMN Healthcare International. If you are new to our page, don't forget to follow AMN Healthcare International for free lessons on NCLEX every second and fourth Monday of the month, and free lessons on English examinations like what we are doing right now, and that's every first and third Monday of the month. So, as mentioned earlier, it's important to read the questions first or to read the statement first, and then identify certain keywords found in the passage. Expect that when you read the passage later, identify certain keywords in the question. These are important keywords for you to find in the passage. It's just that, take note, you don't expect to find the exact word in the passage all the time because sometimes they are using synonyms or other related words. But please make sure that in the beginning, you identify certain keywords already because they are the focal point when you read the passage later on. Next slide, please, as we move on to the tips and strategies in order to ace the reading subtest, in particular, true, false, not given. Well, it says here, the moment you find the statement in the passage, stop reading before you move on to the next sentence. Compare the statement in the passage and the statement in the question. Remember, this is when you're supposed to identify this as true or false or not given. Now, I would like to remind you that the answers are always found chronologically in the passage. Say, for instance, in one passage, there are 7 true, false, not given questions. What does this imply? Where are we supposed to find the answer to number 1? I'm not saying it's always in the first sentence, and I'm not saying it's always in the first paragraph, but the answer to number 1 for true, false, not given, for sure, is found somewhere in the first part or the top part of the passage. What if there are 7 questions? So where do we find the answer to number 7? Probably towards the end of that passage. It doesn't mean it's always the last sentence. It doesn't mean it's always the last paragraph, but for sure, the answer to number 7, which is the last true, false, not given item, can be found towards the end of the passage. Guys, this is what you're going to do. After answering number 1, anytime soon, expect that you're going to find the answer to number 2. But what if answering number 1, the next item you're able to find in the passage is the answer to number 3? That is fishy. Because answers are supposed to appear chronologically. So what does this mean if you saw the answer to number 1 and the answer to number 3, but you were not able to find the answer to number 2? It could only mean one of 2 things. And what is number 1? Probably the answer to number two is something that you have missed. That's why I recommend that you go back to the portion where you found the answer to number one and the answer to number three, because for sure in between there you will find the answer to number two. But what if after answering number one or after reading the portion in between one and three and still you cannot find the answer to number two? I can confidently look at you in the eye and tell you that the answer to number two is not given. How come it's not given? Remember that the answers in the reading subtest true, false, not given is always found chronologically in the passage, which means to say you don't have to finish reading the entire passage for you to say it's not given. If you cannot find the answer to number two in between one and three, then for sure your answer is not given. And take note, this is a strategy that worked for thousands of 9.09 reviewees since 2007. And having said that, we are turning 18 years old this coming April 9. So we would like to invite everyone from the world over to join our 9.09er 18th anniversary celebration. That's on April 9. Guys, at 6 p.m. Philippine time on that day, we are giving one free IELTS examination worth 12,720 pesos, one free PTE examination worth 230 US dollars or approximately 13,300 pesos, one free OET examination worth 587 Australian dollars or around 22,000 pesos, and one free MET examination worth 215 US dollars or 12,900 pesos. But wait, there's more. Remember that it's our 18th anniversary. That's why on April 9 at 6 p.m., we are also identifying 18 winners of 1,000 pesos each. To join the event, all you have to do is to message 9.09er English so that we're going to give you the free registration link. And because it's free, anyone can participate. You can even share the registration link to your friends. Now, let's go to the next slide. And while we shift to the next slide, let's take a look at some of the comments of our live viewers. Now, there are 46 of them. Abdel Khalif Ventura asked, if magte-take pa ba ng IELTS, may expiration po ba? And also, magkano po yung magagastos sa IELTS and OET? Thank you so much for engaging with us. Sometimes it's so difficult when you are a Facebook Live lecturer and you're the only one talking, you have no one to talk to, and people don't react. So thank you so much, Abdel Khalif Ventura, for sharing a question. And for the benefit of our non-Filipino attendees, let me just read this one in English. And translated in English, it says, if someone is going to take IELTS, is there an expiration? And the answer is yes. IELTS result is valid for 2 years. OET result is valid for 2 years. PTE result is valid for 2 years. But Michigan English test result does not have any expiration. So that is to compare the top 4 most popular English examinations accepted for US visa screen. And then Abdel Khalif also asked, how much are we going to spend for IELTS and OET? Actually, thank you for that question, because if you are a qualified nurse and you passed the interview of AMN Healthcare International, AMN is going to sponsor your review and your examination, your English examination. So if you have not signed a contract with AMN yet, please, what are you waiting for? Send them an email or message to their Facebook page, sharing or expressing your intent for you to be one of the AMN nurses. And who knows, you'll be able to qualify for the IELTS scholarship with 9.09er English. So you'll be sent over to us and you are entitled to daily one-on-one coaching. And the best news is the review programs of 9.09er do not have any expiration. And imagine, thank you, AMN, for your generosity, because you have sponsored the review programs of thousands of nurses the world over, especially those on a tight budget. So, Abdel, if you have not messaged AMN or if you have not sent an email, this is the perfect opportunity. Send them an email, or give them your resume, and who knows, you might qualify for the free review and free English examination. Now, let's continue. The answer is true. The passage and statement have exactly the same idea, but different words are used. Let's pay attention to P, that's passage, and then S, statement. Let's take a look at the passage that we have here, and it says, every year there are at least 4 million non-native speakers who are applying for a student visa in English-speaking countries. Now, let's go to the exact words in the statement. And it says, every 365 days, there are more than 4 million student visa applicants whose first language is not English. They wish to study in countries where English is the primary medium of communication. Well, the sentences are long, but I highlighted only two words because they are the most important keywords here. The passage tells us at least. The statement tells us more than. Guys, this is a classic example of true. Why? Because when we say at least, it means to say minimum of 4 million. When we say more than, it also means minimum of 4 million. So remember what I said earlier, that the words in the passage are not always the exact words that you get to see in the statement. This is a classic example. So don't always expect to find the exact words in both the passage and in the statement. If the passage tells you at least and the statement tells you more than, voila, the answer is true. Now, let's move on to the next slide as we have more viewers joining us tonight at 45 live viewers on Facebook. Now, another reason for us to say that the answer is true is when the passage and the statement have different ideas, but still they are consistent with each other. Let's take a look at what the passage tells us. Applicants for the same country typically make the same choices. Now let's go to the statement. People who belong to the same national group normally follow decision-making principles that were used by those who came before them. Guys, the passage tells us that normally people from the same country make the same choice. In the statement, it says, typically they follow the decision-making principles of fellow countrymen. Notice, not exactly the same words are used, but the two ideas do not contradict each other. And while you're consistent with each other, we can confidently say that the answer is true. But you know what? True is the easiest to identify. Most of the candidates in reading find false and not given to be more challenging. So now let's move on to false. There are three reasons for us to say that a statement is false. And what is the first reason? Let's move on to the next slide. The answer is false if the passage and the statement are exact opposites. Let's go back to the example I used earlier, but this time I'm going to change one word. In the passage, it says at least 4 million. But in the statement, it says less than 4 million. Okay, guys? I've mentioned earlier that the meaning of at least is minimum. Now, will you please tell me what is the meaning of less than? I repeat, there is a slight delay between StreamYard and Facebook. So now, kindly tell me what is the meaning of less than? If at least means minimum, less than means maximum. So minimum and maximum, apparently, they are exact opposites. So the answer here is false. Sometimes there are other reasons for us to say that the answer is false. And now let's move on to the second reason why we say the answer is false. Next slide, please. The passage and the statement are not consistent with each other. They contradict each other and they do not point to exactly the same factor. Let's take a look at this example. The passage tells us that decisions of East Asians are based on historical perspectives. But what about the statement? The statement tells us that according to research, East Asians usually consider socio-economic conditions before they come up with a decision. Let's take a look. Passage, it says history. Statement, it says socio-economic. History and socio-economic are not exactly the same, so they are not consistent with each other. The answer is false. Now, there is also one reason the third reason why something is false. Let's move on to the next slide, please. The answer is false if the statement is missing. And exactly what do we mean when we say missing? Say, for instance, the passage contains three details, but in the statement, only two details, meaning to say, one detail is missing, and that lone detail that is missing makes the entire statement false. Let's take a look at the examples that we have provided for you. The passage tells us that the Niner digital ID displays the reviewee's name, nationality, and package. So look at those three details provided. But what about the statement? The statement tells us that the Niner digital ID highlights only the reviewee's name and nationality. Guys, will you please tell us which detail is missing? For sure, the answer is false, but tell me which detail is missing. Once again, the passage shows name, nationality, and package. But in the statement, only the name and nationality. Package is the missing detail that you can find in the passage, but you cannot see in the statement, and that makes the answer false. So once again, what are the three reasons for us to say that the answer is false? Number one, passage and statement are the exact opposites. Number two, passage and statement are not consistent with each other. And number three, the statement is missing. Now, let's go to not given. And while we move on to the next slide, let's take a look at comments from two live viewers. Cornelius is joining us all the way from Nairobi, Kenya. Good morning or good afternoon to our brothers and sisters in Africa. Greetings from Asia. And then Michael Bryan has a question. Sir, renewable po ba ang certificate for IELTS? Renewable in the sense that you need to take the examination every 2 years. What is your objective? That you must apply for a visa before the expiration of your IELTS result. But in the case of the United States of America, what are you supposed to do to extend the validity of your IELTS result? Remember, there are two examination results that you need to submit together in order to apply for your visa screen. And what are these? Number one is your NCLEX result, and number two, your English examination result. So when you apply for visa screen certification and you combine your NCLEX and your IELTS, this is going to be valid for 5 years. So if you are able to secure your visa screen certificate this year by passing both your NCLEX and your English examination this year, once you secure your visa screen, then you can use this for your visa application to the United States until 2030. So this means that you do not need to take another English examination before 2030. I love it when people ask more questions because this is when we make our discussion more engaging. Now, guys, we are done with the reasons why we say the answer is false. Let's move on to the next slide, please, so that I can show you the two reasons for us to say why the answer is not given. I repeat, in high school, it's just true or false. But in IELTS, there are three options to choose from: true, false, or not given. Now let's move on to the next slide, please, as we look at the two reasons why we say the answer is not given. And what is number one? It says, if you cannot find the statement in the passage, for sure it's not given. But what's the only way for you to confidently say that something is not given? I reiterate, read the entire passage. Because if you have read everything, you can be 100% sure that this information you are looking for is something that you cannot find in the passage. Voila. Write not given on the answer sheet or type not given on the computer screen. Guys, the other reason why true false not given is mind-boggling and confusing is because of the second reason why it's not given. And what does it say? It says here, the statement has an additional information. Meaning to say, if in the passage there are only three details, but in the statement now there's four of them, let's go back to the same example that we have used earlier. And in the passage, it says, the Niner digital ID displays the reviewee's name, nationality, and package. But in the statement this time, we're going to find four details. And what are these? Name, nationality, package, and age. Guys, tell me which information is added in the statement making the answer not given. I repeat that there is sometimes a slight delay between StreamYard and Facebook. So maybe the others are still thinking and are still typing. So will you please tell me now, what is the extra detail? What is the added information in the statement that makes the answer not given? The answer is age. Yes, you get to find name, nationality, and package in the passage, but age is something you cannot find in the passage, therefore, it's not given. Now you're going to tell me, but sir, wait. Name, nationality, package are there, and age is not there, therefore, it's false. Well, if you only have two options, true or false, then that should have been false. But in IELTS, remember that you have three options. The added information always makes the answer not given. Now, what are the two reasons why we say it's not given? Number one, if you cannot find the statement in the passage, and number two, there's an added information. Now, I'm so excited to go to our exercise. And yes, even if this is a Facebook Live session, indeed, we have an exercise in the last 10 minutes of our discussion. But before that, let's take a look at some of the comments of our live viewers. Nuani Makalisha Amaka is watching all the way from Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining our Facebook Live session tonight here on AMN Healthcare International, AMN Academy, every Monday at 9 p.m. Miller JMS, I tried to reach out in your office and nobody follow up. For PTE review, this is interesting because if you message 9.09er English on Facebook, I'm the one responding to all the messages. It's impossible I miss the message because everyone in the industry knows that I am the most responsive person in the world. I work every day from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And at times, like today, I end my work at 10 p.m. because apparently I'm doing the Facebook Live session now. If no one responded to you, you must be messaging the wrong account. Or you can also look for me on Facebook, Irvin Neil Temporal. You can't miss it. Look for anyone, any nurse, any Filipino, and ask if Niner is responsive. Everyone in the industry knows that I am the most responsive person in the world. So it's impossible if you have not received any reply. Message now, and then I'll reply tomorrow morning when I wake up at 6 in the morning. So thank you, Miller JMS. Mary Ann Oksan Puwing and Elaine Salas both mentioned that age is the added information. You are right. Age is the added information making the statement not given. Now, I promised that in the last 10 minutes of our presentation, we're going to do some exercise. So let's move on to the next slide because we are going to look at 4 examples and I need you to tell me if the answer is true or false or not given. Let's begin. The passage tells us the Niner digital ID displays the reviewee's name, nationality, and package. So those are the 3 details. But what about the statement? The Niner digital ID does not display the reviewee's name, nationality, package, and age. Guys, displays 3 information, does not display 4 information. So for our 40 live viewers on Facebook, what is the correct answer? Is it true or false or not given? Miller JMS, look for 9.09er English on Facebook. That is our legitimate account, the one that is Meta verified with a check mark with 34,000 followers. Or you can look for me, Irvin Neil Temporal, on Facebook with 46,000 followers. If you message the right account, you will receive a reply in less than 1 hour because I'm the one responding to all the messages sent to 9.09er English and my personal Facebook account. On the average, I respond to 50 messages per hour. So it's impossible that I do not respond to any message because in life, there are only 2 things that I do: talk and text. When I talk, it's like this one, the one that I'm doing, Facebook Live session. And if I'm not talking, I'm texting, meaning to say I'm on my phone from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day responding to all the messages. Now, what is the answer, guys? Displays 3 information, does not display 4 information. Is it true or false or not given? And since no one has responded, I'll tell you that the correct answer is not given. Why? The passage uses the word displays. The statement uses the word does not display. I know they are exact opposites. They contradict each other. But how come the answer is not given? How come the answer is not false? Remember, there is an added information in the statement, and that is age. The word age makes the entire statement not given. So we're done with example number one. Let us move on to example number two. Johnny Lo de Casa and Elaine Sales said false, but unfortunately, the answer is not given because of the added information, which is age. Now, let us move on to the second example. Undoubtedly, religious elements are always involved in Bollywood movies. That's the passage. And then the statement tells us viewers usually do not notice the religious elements in Bollywood movies. For our second example, what is the correct answer? Is it true or false or not given? We have 40 live viewers on Facebook, so we need the opinion of all our attendees. And in fact, you're already 33% correct because you only have three options. So for our second example, is it true or false or not given? How do we break this down? Let's identify the keywords that are found both in the passage and in the statement. Let's begin. Religious elements. This is something you can find in both the passage and in the statement. What about Bollywood movies? The same thing is true. Bollywood movies, exact words can be found in both the passage and in the statement. But what is the reason why the answer here is not given? Mary Ann Oksan Pusing, you are correct that the answer is not given. Can someone tell me the reason why it's not given? Which information is added in the statement that no one can find in the passage? Actually, that one that is underlined is the reason why the answer is not given. Viewers usually do not notice that is added information that you cannot find in the passage. It was just added in the statement, making number two not given. Okay, we are done with our first two examples. Let us move on to the last two examples. Next slide, please. And while we are moving to the next slide, let's take a look at the comment of Elaine Sales. Does that mean, sir, if the passage and statement are contradictory, but there is an added information, the correct answer is always not given? Yes, you got it right. Even if the passage and the statement negate each other, even if they're exact opposites, for as long as there is an added information in the statement, the answer is always not given. The reason why others don't make it in the reading subjects is because they've never heard of the tested and proven strategies. I have been doing IELTS more than half of my life. I started teaching in 2006, opened Niner in 2007. So this coming April, I am celebrating the 18th anniversary of 9.0 Niner. And this May, I am celebrating my 19th year in the industry. Yes, I am sharing with you tips, strategies, that have helped thousands of Niner reviewees pass in the last 18 years. I'm sharing this with you now because if you're just joining us for free, at least I'm able to help you pass the examination even without enrolling at Niner. However, if you do not have the extra budget, praise God for the generosity of AMN Healthcare International, because if you qualify for the sponsorship, AMN is going to pay for your IELTS review and IELTS examination, and you are sent straight to 9.0 Niner. Now, Elaine said, thank you. Miller JMS, message sent and responded, automated shift ended. I'm in the right page. Miller JMS, I am actually teaching right now, but if you'd like me to open my business suite, because as I've said, I'm the one responding. Okay, yeah, there you go. Miller JMS, our shift is has ended. It's time, blah, blah, blah. Okay. In fact, I already created a group chat for you for Miss Keisha Tapitan. Miller JMS, are you Filipino? Let me know if you are Filipino or not. Okay? Now, Miller JMS, what is your nationality? I'll wait for your response. Now, let us go back to the examples. The passage tells us there is a touch of Spain in the cuisine of the Caribbean islands. And then the statement tells us Spanish elements must not be integrated in the Caribbean cuisine. Guys, for our third example, is the answer true or false or not given? Let's break it down once again. Caribbean islands. The word Caribbean is something you can find in both the passage and in the statement. What about the word cuisine? Yes, indeed. You get to see the word cuisine in both passage and in the statement. But what about the answer? Is the answer here true, false, or not given? Remember, it says there is a touch of Spain, or there is a touch of Spain in the cuisine. But for the for the statement, it says must not be integrated. Okay, Mary Ann said false, Eleni said false, but the correct answer is not given. What have you noticed so far? The three examples that I have given you, the answer is not given. So why is not given the correct answer? Remember, the statement tells us Spanish elements must not be integrated. The passage does not say anything must not be integrated. So that is the additional information. Thank you, Nina Kilitano. The answer is not given. So Miller JMS said, yes po, Pinay. Pero kung babalikan po natin, Miller, actually, binigay ko na po yung mobile number ni Miss Keisha. Tapos nung Feb 26, nagtanong ka po, can I talk to her through Messenger? Sumagot po ako. Gawa lang po ako ng group chat kasama si Miss Keisha. Sabi mo, what is the group chat? Sinend ko na rin po sa'yo ang link ng group chat. So, imposible po yung sinasabi nyo kanina na hindi po kayo sinasagot. I have the screenshots na sumasagot po ako sa inyong mga tanong. Sorry for our non-Filipino live viewers. I just had to speak in Filipino because we were accused that we are not responding to the messages. Yes, I can confidently look at everyone and say that I am the most responsive person in the world because I, for one, spend 14 to 16 hours of my everyday responding to all the messages. Now, let us go to the last item here. The passage tells us spices in the Gulf region are traded by land. The statement, spices in the Gulf region are not traded by air. Ladies and gentlemen, for your last chance, is the correct answer true or false or not given? Once again, the exact words spices in the Gulf region, these are words that you can find in both the passage and in the statement. But what about the two main phrases of both the passage and the statement? Passage, traded by land. Statement, not traded by air. Guys, traded by land versus not traded by air, what is the correct answer? The correct answer is not given. Why? Some people say that is false because if it's traded by land, for sure it's not traded by air. Actually, you can't be too sure because there's what we call water, there's what we call railway. So just because it's traded by land does not always mean that it's not traded by air because there are other forms of transportation. So the answer is not given. So ladies and gentlemen, I have presented you a full-length discussion of true, false, not given. Now, we hope that whatever we've discussed in the last 43 minutes is something that you are going to apply when you take the actual IELTS examination. So, on behalf of the entire team of 9.09er English and AMN Healthcare International, we are so happy that you joined us in the last 45 minutes of our Facebook Live session. Don't forget that 2 weeks from now, we're going to do another Facebook Live session together with the British Council and a featured IELTS passer. So we figured we want to inspire, we want to motivate nurses around the world by featuring an IELTS passer once a month. And then for the second half of the month, this is when we're going to have Sir Brian Martin Shawson doing on-the-spot speaking. On-the-spot writing task 1 and on-the-spot writing task 2. So before we end our Facebook Live session, I'd like to invite you to always watch Onwards and Upwards show of AMN Healthcare International. That's every Friday night. At the same time, we would like you to pursue your American dream by sending AMN an email or sending AMN a direct message. Once again, this is Irvin Neil Tempero, the founder and CEO of 9.09er English, thanking you for your time, and we hope to see you on April 9th. That's our 18th anniversary global celebration via Zoom. Thank you, everyone, and good night. Bye.